And we are back. This is After the Beat. This is when we answer your questions. It is a special Wednesday edition of the show. It is Thanksgiving Eve here in the United States. Everyone's very excited about Thanksgiving, one of the great holidays of the calendar year. So without further ado, let's get to our first question of the day, and it is as follows. What are the top 5 pound for pound Thanksgiving dishes?
Wow, I knew.
And you know, I didn't grow up with Thanksgiving. It's not a big deal where I come from, Canada, Montreal, Quebec, Canada to be exact. But I know you guys are big Thanksgiving
guys. I know your boy John Beer brings over a big turkey.
He does, but this is more of a new tradition. Yes, he is the greatest cook of all time. Yeah. But I want to know from true Americans, from true red, white, and blue Americans. You got it. You got the gravy in your blood. Tell me, top 5 pound for pound Thanksgiving dishes. What do we need? What do we need to have on Thanksgiving?
Well, I think that you got to.
And you didn't prepare this. This is off the top of your head.
No, although I will say this: that I was having a discussion with some of my other work, and somehow this kind of topic came up. Okay. So I'm a little prepared for it. Stuffing. The stuffing.
Wow.
The stuffing that.
Is that like a main dish or is it like a side?
It's a side.
Okay, but this counts. This counts.
But it counts. I mean,
and is this number 1?
For me, it's number 1.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go with stuffing number 1 and pumpkin pie, because it's the one time a year you really have that. It's not like, you know, like I love other desserts like apple pie and all, but you will have those all different times. But pumpkin pie is basically a Thanksgiving thing. So those are my top 2, and I'm gonna let.
I mean, so every family kind of has their own things.
Yeah.
Like growing up, we had like fruit salad, which was like
fruit salad.
It was sort of like a.
I didn't expect that.
With like cut up, you know, fruit. Okay. So that would be like up there for me.
Wow.
Pecan pie. My mom always made pecan pie, so that would be like with your pumpkin pie. You know, it would, like the mashed potatoes was always a big deal with the gravy and things like that. So I would say that that's a staple. There was there's always like some kind of either candied yams or like some sweet potatoes with some like marshmallows, like you know, that sort of. I don't know what that. I don't even know what that's really called, but that's always on there. You can get rid of the cranberry sauce. So we don't really.
You're not a big fan.
I'm not a big fan of
really?
that.
I like the cranberry
sauce. Dinner rolls are very good. You know, like the rolls and things like that.
Now, have you guys adopted these traditions to your own families, or have you started like are you having the fruit salad tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part, yeah. For the most part.
I'll come by tomorrow.
Yeah, come on by.
Yeah, no, cranberry sauce has got to be in my top 5. So I'm sorry.
Really?
You know, yeah, it's got to be in there somewhere. And turkey, you know, turkey's in there.
I was just gonna say,
the turkey is. I mean, some people don't like turkey. I love turkey, but without the other stuff, it doesn't. Even like leftovers, it has to have it has to have stuffing and some cranberry and other stuff has to be.
Can't
otherwise,
just be plain turkey.
Just turkey. You know, it's not.
You know, I actually had to go buy our turkey yesterday, first time ever for me. And what the heck is brine? Can you guys explain this to me? Because the lady was telling me, like, do you want to brine it? Do you not want to brine it? Do you want to get it pre-brined? Are you guys familiar with this?
I am familiar, but I'm not sure I can. It's
what kind of Americans are you?
It's a kind of salting.
Kind that eat.
Okay. And, okay, what about people who like drop it in a frying thing?
Yeah, fried.
What's up with that?
I've never done that.
Yeah.
And then if it's frozen, it can explode in your face.
Very, very.
I've seen these videos.
These are all like, some people get very.
That sounds more sophisticated territory like that. So.
Yeah. To me, just like.
But you want the turkey well done, right? As dry as possible.
No, you don't want it as dry as possible. You just want to get the thing in the oven for many, many hours.
Do you cook your own turkey?
I don't,
Are you
because like we go to my in-laws. But I used to love it when I was in that position where I would, you know, cook a turkey, and I would love to do that sometime. Just that, you know, we're kind of obligated to go to the
Isn't it
big
better that you don't have to
gathering.
clean up? You just show up, you eat.
Yeah,
you go home.
I mean that's true. There is something nice about it, but I like the idea of having your thing at home.
Literally the only time, you know what a baster is? It's like the only time you see your baster out and you're like...
You cook your own turkey?
I help out with it, but my wife primarily.
She makes it, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it more, like I've always felt like, oh, you know, I'm the man of the house, I have to do the
The
turkey.
man is the carving.
I have no idea. Oh, right.
The man of the house has to have
do the carving.
I have no idea how to cook turkey. Like I wouldn't know the first place
You gotta learn to carve.
Also, it's a very gross thing to buy. You go to the grocery store. I mean, it's just like
way more gross things to buy.
Well, it looks like a turkey. You know what I mean?
Yes, it does.
Like if you buy, I don't know,
hamburger does not look like.
At least you don't go out.
Does not look like a cow.
No, I do not do that.
Yeah.
What a strange holiday.
It is.
It's like so much about the turkey, you know, and in a way, I don't know.
What do you eat at Canadian Thanksgiving?
I didn't celebrate it.
Okay.
It was on a Monday, first of all.
Okay.
It was the first week of October, and my school didn't even have off for it.
Gotcha.
Like we didn't even learn about it.
Deal.
I don't even know. My son was talking to me today about, he called it Plymouth Rock, and then his friend corrected him is Plymouth Rock. Like, I have no idea what these things are. And I've been living here for like 17 years.
Not that far. You can hop in a car and be there.
Where
in
is it?
Plymouth. That's where the Plymouth Rock is.
Okay.
It's in Plymouth, Mass.
That makes sense. All right, let's go to our next question here. What's your turkey technique? Okay, there you go. You brine it, clearly.
I will say that, no, my technique is, I like the drumsticks, so I make sure that my technique is to get to the table early because there's only 2 drumsticks on a turkey.
Okay.
And I like to get one of those.
Wow.
I like that.
You don't eat any other part?
Well, I do, but that's one of my favorite parts. So.
Okay, what about you?
I mean, I think it's pretty normal. Just put it in the oven.
You don't have like a special thing?
No, not really. Honestly, not really.
My friend John Beer likes to hide lemons.
Yeah, so we put some citrus, like usually oranges, things like that. And some of the stuffing, some of the stuffing will be in the middle.
Put it in there.
Yeah.
You actually put it in.
Yep.
Wow.
One time I baked the turkey upside down.
Really?
Not intentionally.
Okay.
We were a bunch of us bachelors living in a house, and we probably had too many drinks before in the morning. We put the thing in the oven, and it turned out to be a good mistake because it was like sort of sopping up all the gravy in the bottom of the pan. It was like the most moist, amazing thing. It didn't have the same like browning as it.
Yeah.
Or maybe I guess halfway through we sort of flipped it over and it browned, but it was one of those happy mistakes that we claimed that we had done that on purpose, but nah.
I challenge the people out there: cook your turkey upside down and let us know. Send Jeff your photos.
Yeah, exactly.
Let us know how it goes. All right, what's next? Next question. Here we go. What would be your fight nicknames and why?
Jeez.
I mean, you both have nicknames on this program.
I'd be the man in the hat. That's what would be mine. Because that would throw the fear of God into anybody.
Man. Did you guys ever have nicknames as youngsters growing up? Were you Wags?
Wags. Daddy Wags. There was a famous baseball player, and I don't know when it was, long before my time, who I think his last name was Wagner, and I'm sure people out there will know who it is.
Honus Wagner?
No, not Honus Wagner,
okay.
but a more probably I'm thinking maybe 50s or 60s. Somebody, and he was known as Daddy Wags. And so when I used to work at the Globe, being that everybody had nicknames there, nobody knew anybody's real names. It was all nicknames. And at some point, they usually had something to do with like some athlete. Like my friend's last name was Richards. He was Golden Richards because of the Dallas Cowboy receiver. But so everybody had nicknames, and at some point they used to call me Daddy Wags, not just Wags.
Daddy Wags might be.
And that became my DJ name when I did a radio show.
Really?
Yes.
When was this?
Until like 3 or 4 years ago.
You're like, hey everyone, this is Daddy Wags on K103 FM.
Something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But a very non-intimidating.
But it was not exactly a fighting nickname. I mean, I'm not sure that calling yourself Daddy Wags was really going to intimidate the guy across the cage from you. So
exactly.
I don't think I would use that. And I think I would, I don't know. Say I would probably go with like Poison Ivy or something like that because who's going to come near me?
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Jeff Poison Ivy Wagenheim. How about that, Chuck?
I don't know. It was like Pitbull or something like that.
Okay,
We got that.
Very original. Very original. Very intimidating animal.
Yeah, people don't want to go near a Pitbull. No, I don't know, man. I really don't know. That's got to be something your coach gives you,
Yeah, you can.
Like, the notorious. I could do
you didn't have a nickname as a youngster? No,
not really.
Mindy.
Yeah, some people. Every now and then, there's always people call you by your last name, things like that. But not really, no. So
Man
that's
in the hat.
Not the
man in the hat.
What about you?
Well, in the Reebok era, they wouldn't let you wear it. They'd say, "Oh, that's your thing. Please take it off."
What's your fight nickname?
So when I started in radio in Montreal, the host of this radio show, CFMB 1280 AM, the show was called In the Ring. It was a pro wrestling show, and he dubbed me the franchise because he said I was like the future. And so some people actually still call me the franchise back home. Or French.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any MMA fighter with the nickname the franchise. There were a couple of pro wrestlers. Shane Douglas comes to mind, but no MMA fighter has it. So I guess I'd go with the franchise.
Rolling out to 3 little birds. All right, we're starting to put this together.
All right, we got
a picture of what you'd be.
Coming to a cage in 2019. All right, what's our next one? What is going on with DJ versus TJ negotiations? And if TJ beats DJ, is he the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world? So I can give you an update on the first part of things. There's not a lot of movement there. They kind of like threw out a feeler, if you will, but it hasn't really. That's what they want. That's what they want to book. And I think both sides are open to it. But again, I think DJ has been pretty clear, like if they want him to do this, they have to pay him. And so I don't think they've really gotten to that point. But DJ, Demetrius Johnson has said, like, if you want me to, do a fight of this magnitude, I want to be paid. DJ has really come into his own this year. That's been one of the stories. As far as like being more vocal, he now has a management team representing him, Malki, etc. But about the second question, which is interesting, if TJ wins that fight, all of a sudden, does he just become #1 pound for pound? No.
I don't think so. I mean,
wow.
I don't think on something like that, something that where you're talking about the best fighter on the planet, essentially, that you just leapfrog and change places with whoever beat you. If Ray Bork somehow landed a punch and knocked him out, let's just say he caught him, does that make him, you know what I mean? I wouldn't automatically make that.
He'd be a two-weight class world champion.
I agree.
Well, would he though?
Yeah, yeah.
He would. They're gonna definitely compete in flyweight. That's
what he's thrown out, and I think that's what makes sense because of the record.
I certainly think that would put him up there. You know what I mean? Like,
but it doesn't make him clear.
But you have to remember, like, too, you know, losing to you know, Dodson or you know, Cruz. These things, you remember them happening. You know what I mean?
But how long do they stick with you?
I don't know, but like they still stick with you to an extent because you look at the guys who you consider the best pound for pound. There's more context than just beating the one guy. It's always like there's a lot that goes into it. It's an interesting question because I would have never even considered it, but I think beating him, it would depend on how, I guess. If you dominate him from gate to gate and just it was like, you're like, whoa, just kind of like Cody Garbrandt did with Cruz, maybe you would rethink, you know, kind of how you would, where you'd place him, but I don't think so. I don't think just beating Demetrius Johnson puts him there.
Wow. What do you think?
I'm trying to imagine where.
And I'm not saying of all time, I'm saying currently.
I know,
yeah, I'm trying to figure out, you know, I think right now, Demetrius Johnson is in that spot. I'm trying to figure out how much more you leapfrog by beating that guy. And I guess I would say that if he did it in a spectacular fashion, it might rub off on him. But I don't know that I would hold the Dotson loss against him. That's ancient history. But certainly the Cruz loss is recent enough. And then you look at the Garbrandt win. I mean, he got knocked down and hurt in that first round, and then he of course came back and won the fight. So obviously that's a win is a win is a win. But I kind of look at these at pound for pound best as not just winning fights, but being just dominant. Demetrius Johnson has had almost no trouble with the people he's competed against, and so I guess if it would take a lot for me to.
I feel like it's a no-brainer.
Do you think it would be?
I think he would be, yeah.
Well, you know what's funny is like you're catching us off guard, but when you think about, when you really think about how many
you're asking us to think, and I just don't appreciate
well, when you think about the current landscape and who actually has title defenses to their name currently, because we've had so much turnover, I guess if you're really talking about the moment, he'd probably be closer to the top than I was originally thinking. Because if you really just think about who's out there and who would give him that competition, it's kind of hard to think who would maybe be above that, other than, you know what I mean, like because Demetrius is the guy, and then there's probably a little bit of a, because Cormier is obviously now by default he is still the champion. He's had some defense, you know what I mean, but you wouldn't consider him that. So I don't know.
I just think, I mean, he becomes the only man not named Conor to win, you know, 2 belts at the same time, to have 2 belts at the same time, and then you beat DJ, who holds the record and has been so dominant.
I mean, I guess really it's stacking up against other people, and I'm trying to imagine where the other people fall. And there aren't that many champions who have been so dominant. I mean, even I was thinking Woodley, but Woodley's fights have been pretty close.
And you can't put GSP up there and say, you can, but you can't. It's like he just came back, and you need bigger sample size where he's at.
And McGregor's been inactive, so it's hard to really stack him in there. All right. I mean, maybe
That's
by
default.
default.
So I would have never contemplated Dillashaw ever as the best.
There's a lot at stake here for him.
I will say this.
Well, you know why he wants to fight then? If we can even talk about him in that, it's just like.
All of a sudden.
I will say this. I think that we're much better at answering questions about Turkey than we are about MMA. So I think we should.
Okay, what else we got? Okay, the MMA Beat. This is for the MMA Beat. Is this really the final time that we will see Ben Askren in MMA? Will he return to Bellator? Please discuss. And that is Dwight Schrute. So we haven't talked about this. In just a few hours' time, Ben Askren is supposedly going to fight in his last MMA fight against one Shinya Aoki. Well, it's tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh no, it's Friday. I thought it was Thursday.
Okay, right.
So maybe a little more than just a few hours' time. But yeah, I mean, we're down to the final hours. One welterweight title fight. He told us he's walking away. Do you believe that he's actually going to be one of those guys who walks away?
I believe he's that kind of guy who this could really be it, because I think he's a principled person who operates off his own conviction. Haven't talked to him a lot of times. I really believe he's that kind of guy. Now, I also think he's a smart guy, and I think if the right fight and the right money and all that came together, I absolutely think he'd fight again.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of in your boat. I think that he's a guy who, first of all, I think he does operate by his own rules.
Yes.
I mean, look at just the way he's, you know, he left Bellator. Did he go to the UFC? No. He went overseas, probably made way more money than he would have made in the UFC with way less risk. I mean, talk about you know, when you think about how much per dollar he's risked his health.
I want you to name 3 of the opponents he beat over and over.
I couldn't. I mean, I really couldn't. I mean, I couldn't name them. If they were on a piece of paper in front of my face, I probably couldn't pronounce them.
It's brilliant, though, right? Go where you could get paid the most to fight.
For the least risk. I mean, not to, you know, these guys, anybody who steps in one of these stages is a professional fighter, but he's not fighting against the most elite guys, and he's making a lot of money, I'm going to assume. He's making a good living. So, you know, why risk that unless somebody comes to him and says, you know, we'll give you a ton of money.
He's interesting because, you know, he had priorities that he upheld, you know. Like, I feel like some guys, it's like, you know, if you're not fighting the best, you're not really defining yourself. That's really not what his goal it seemed. It just didn't seem like that was what he wanted, you know. It's he had other things in his mind, and honestly, like, it didn't feel like to me he navigated himself in a way that I didn't feel like he was ducking anybody. I don't think he was, you know, trying to get away from challenges. I just think he literally looked at big picture the whole way and said, I know what I want. This is the best route. And I feel like other fighters might actually learn a little something from his approach. You know what I mean? Absolutely. We want to personally see him against the best.
But he's
he kind of looked at it like, hey, I have a family and this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I don't think he longs for the UFC. I don't think he longs for Bellator anymore. In a weird way, I know it's not apples to apples, but he kind of reminds me of Barry Sanders, to where you're like, you're not really gonna walk away, right? Like, I want to see you play on the biggest stage, and he's like, no, I'm walking away. I'm done. Yeah. I'm gonna do this and that. I'll do some grappling tournaments, whatever. I would not be shocked if this is really it for him.
He, you know, in Milwaukee, he's got, you know, a school where he teaches kids. He does a lot of that stuff. That's really I think that's his identity. I did a piece in Fight Magazine where I visited him and those things, and I think that he really cares about those things. It's not like he puts being in the UFC or fighting so-and-so ahead of all of that. He has that firmly placed, you know.
All right, so look out for that this weekend. What else we got? I think we got a couple more. Should UFC have, let's say, a default max set of time for defending the belt before losing it? Probably a 1-year rule would make sense. Defend or vacate. So I've talked about this. Yeah. If you don't have a title fight booked, or if you don't fight within 365 days of your last title fight, then I do believe the UFC is well within their rights, and they should have this in writing, of course. That's the rule that I would put in place. Now, a lot of people have asked me, so what do you do about Conor now? Because I've said in the past, when it comes to the featherweight belt, I didn't agree with how they did it. I didn't agree with why they did it, in terms of stripping him of the featherweight title, but I did agree with the act of stripping him because it had been over a year. He had not defended it or had a featherweight title fight booked. Now here we are, we're past 205. I would not raise a stink if they decided, hey, we're gonna strip him of the lightweight title. Now, again, going back to what happened last year, they only stripped him of the featherweight title because Cormier got injured and they needed, so I don't like that. I'd prefer if they have a good reason, but like, if you want to put it in writing that it's 1 year.
They were saying he was going to defend, who's going to defend them both?
Right,
you know, 2
right,
times a year.
Right. I like that rule. Yeah. I like it. You either have a fight booked or you actually have a fight within a year. Otherwise, you got to move on. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of it. I think that you have to do that now. I think the UFC, and you mentioned McGregor. In his case, the UFC was heavily involved in his foray into boxing.
That's where it gets a little tricky.
And so I think that in that case...
Does he get a continuance?
Well, I think in that case, they... if he was doing something else, if he had not done that and he had just been sitting on his ass, I would say, yeah, take the title away because he hasn't competed in the year. But because he did something that was sanctioned by them, I don't think it's fair.
Okay.
But I do think that this is one of those places where, you know, we recognize that in all of sports, not just MMA, but all of sports, there are different rules depending on who you are.
Sure.
And he certainly runs.
Oh, I'm not expecting them to do this.
But I do think that they should have something. Look, if he loses the belt, he can always go. If he decided he wanted to fight Max Holloway tomorrow, they would cancel the Aldo fight and put him in there, right?
I mean, it doesn't affect his purse, his pay-per-view buys. It doesn't affect any of this, and it's not really the Conor rule, so to speak. But you know, they should have done it with Dominic Cruz when he was injured.
Right. Well, he's the reason we.
The wheel needs to. Yeah, the wheel needs to keep moving.
I mean,
along.
because I don't even with them being sort of complicit and like putting together that boxing match and everything else, to me, if you're not defending the belt, you should be stripped. Like he's still moonlighting. He's still out there doing this stuff. He's making whatever 9 figures. You know, he's doing his thing for himself. The rest of the division in your sport is being held up as you do that. So to me, I'm like, he should be stripped. And it would, in specifically him, it doesn't even matter. Everybody knows he didn't lose these titles, and he's going to sell no matter what. So you're putting him on a main event. You don't need a title fight. You don't need him to be the title holder. Everybody knows his situation, and because he's that famous. So and that way, I'm like, I would strip him. But that's just it. Probably, I'm guessing there's a grace period too because of what's going on, and we'll have to find out kind of what they're doing with it.
They have a lot of things in writing. I mean, they have this one thing that if you turn down a fight, they'll extend your contract, you know, 6 months or so. I don't see why they can't put this in the contracts. Now, of course, another thing I was going to bring up, you know, on the beat was I wish that the fighters had a seat at the table where someone was actually, you know, collectively bargaining these things. But that's a rule that I actually think makes sense just to keep the train moving along. Okay, I do think we have one more question.
Let's grow more.
This is our last one. Here we go. What fight are you most looking forward to at UFC 218? This gentleman also asks about events happening around Detroit, and I don't know about those just yet. They usually announce them the week of, and yes, MMA Fighting will be there. I will be there, and I think our own Alexander Lee will be there as well. But off top of your head, main card, give me one. You know the fights.
Yeah, some of them. I don't know all of them.
Aldo, Watterson against Torres.
I think the Alvarez and Gaethje fight is certainly an appealing fight. You know, rock'em sock'em robots basically, and so it's always fun to watch. I mean, it's always a cop out to pick the main event because it's the main event, and so they sort of Captain Obvious. But it's interesting when you see a fight where, you know, one guy is a legend and he did really well early in his fight, but then got beaten down. So really, that's the one I really want to see. But I will go with that rock'em sock'em robots.
Cejudo, Pettis. What do you got, Chuck?
Probably the Angela Magana fight. No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah,
I didn't want to do it.
Let me change my answer.
No, it's got to be the Justin. I mean, that Justin Gaethje Eddie Alvarez fight, to me, just two guys who are willing to fight the way they do with zero sense of self-preservation, which is weird and sadistic in its own way, but man, and they're both really skilled too. So you put them together and you're not sure what's going to happen. You feel like there's going to be a lot of scrambles, a lot of big exchanges, and I feel like it's really can't miss. So I really can't. That's one of the fights that when they booked it, I was like, you were looking forward to that one more than just about everything on the calendar.
And by the way, look out. If Gaethje wins in particular, that whole lightweight division is going to, I mean, like, we think we kind of have a sense with Ferguson, Khabib. It will all change, especially if it's in emphatic fashion. I'm going with Ngannou over him because they have pushed Ngannou so much. They need a contender at heavyweight, and I really think that they are hoping that he wins so that they can do Ngannou versus Miocic. So I think that that's a really big fight.
Mike Chiapetta's got a really great feature coming out on it.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. I like that. A plug for a colleague. Yeah. All right. Great questions. Really enjoyed them. Thank you for watching this special Wednesday edition of the show. If you are living in the United States or if you are celebrating Thanksgiving, wherever you may be, hopefully you have a happy and healthy and a fruitful one and a very full one.
Fruitful, I mean like in Chuck's side dish?
Salad. Exactly. Filled with a lot of food and family and fun times, and wishing all of you a great holiday, and of course to our crew in the back, wishing them a great holiday as well, and to the rest of the team over at MMAFighting.com. So for Jeff, for Chuck, for myself, again, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the holiday if you're in the United States. And by the way, enjoy the fights this weekend. There's another loaded schedule of MMA action. We'll be back next week to talk about it all. Thank you very much.